Have you ever felt that heavy feeling in your chest when a woman you thought was interested in you ignores you? Have you gone through that moment when you're waiting for a message, looking at your phone every minute, but nothing comes? Or perhaps worse, when she directly rejects you as if you were nothing important in her life? Stop for a moment and be honest with yourself. How many times has this happened to you? And the important thing, what did you do afterwards? Did you start chasing her more? Did you try to prove to her that you deserve her? Did you write her long messages, or try to explain yourself, or even change your personality just to impress her? If your answer is yes, you are not alone. But let me tell you something that might completely change your perspective. Everything you were doing was pushing her further away. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal to you is not just ordinary advice, but a deep psychological method. A method that completely flips the scales and makes her the one who thinks of you, she who misses you, and perhaps she who comes back. But before that, let's talk about the biggest mistake that most men make. The mistake that seems logical, but is actually destructive. When a woman rejects you, your mind starts working in a strange way. You start to think, maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I should try harder. Maybe if I prove to her that I'm different, she will change her mind. And here the chase begins, sending more messages, trying to always be available, laughing at everything she says, showing her that you care too much. But do you know what happens in her mind at that moment? She sees that you have become easy. And here comes the truth that may be harsh, but it is necessary. A person by nature does not value what comes easily. The more you chase her, the more she feels she is above you. The more you try to convince her of you, the more you lose your value in her eyes. Not because you are bad, but because your behavior sends the wrong message. A message that says, I need you. And this sentence alone is enough to kill any attraction. Think with me. Have you ever been attracted to someone who was constantly chasing you? Or were you more drawn to the person who was mysterious, not always available, had their own life? This is where the real transformation begins. The way I will talk to you about now is not a game and not manipulation, but rather a restoration of your balance. When a woman ignores you or rejects you, your first natural reaction is to get closer. But what if you did the exact opposite? What if you stepped back, not in anger, not in acting, but calmly and confidently? Imagine this scene. You always used to talk to her, initiate, ask, care, and suddenly you disappeared. No messages, no attempts, no pressure, just silence. What do you think she will do? At first, she may not notice. Then, she starts to wonder, where did he go? Why isn't he talking to me anymore? Did I do something wrong? And here her mind starts to work, in the same way your mind used to work before. But the difference is that you are now in a position of power, not because you are trying to control her, but because you stopped losing yourself. Ignoring her here is not a punishment for her, but a respect for yourself. And this is the secret that many do not understand. When you stop chasing someone who does not see you, you do not lose them, but you regain yourself. And the exciting thing is that this very behavior is what attracts attention, because you broke the pattern. She was used to you always being there, and suddenly you are not. And this change creates curiosity, and curiosity is the beginning of attraction. But be careful. Real ignoring is not just disappearing, but truly living your life. To be busy with yourself, to develop yourself, to go out, learn, work, laugh, without her presence being a condition for your happiness. Because women feel these things, not through words, but through energy. When you are balanced, not needy, confident, you naturally become attractive. But when you're anxious, obsessed, seeking her attention, that shows too, and pushes her away. Let me give you a simple example from life. A young man was talking to a girl every day for hours. Then she started ignoring him, responding coldly, disappearing. He tried harder, wrote more, asked her why, but the situation got worse. Then at one moment, he decided to stop. Not because he hates her, but because he got tired. He started focusing on himself, went out with his friends, worked on his goals, and stopped thinking about her. After 2 weeks, what happened? She came back. She started texting, asking, opening topics. Why? Is it because he suddenly became someone else? No, but because he stopped losing his value. And here's the important point. Value is not demanded. Value is felt. And when you stop chasing those who don't see you, you're silently saying, I know my worth. And this is stronger than any message. But let me ask you an important question. Are you really ready to step back? Or do you just want to ignore her so she comes back? Because there's a big difference. If you're just ignoring her as a plan, she will feel that. But if you're truly moving on, that's the real impact. And in the middle of this talk, let me remind you of something important. If you've reached this point, you are starting to understand the picture more deeply. But what comes next is much more important, because we will delve into more precise details about how to apply this approach without making mistakes. Now, let us dive deeper into human nature. Why does ignoring work in the first place? It is related to something called scarcity. When something is always available, we don't think about it much. But when it disappears, it gains value. And this applies to relationships as well. When you were always available, she didn't have to put in any effort. But when you withdrew, she had to think. And thinking creates feelings. And that is the real transformation. But remember, the goal is not just to make her come back, but to become a person who doesn't need to chase anyone. A person who is chosen, not begging. And here begins a completely different story. The story of a person who understood the game, but chose to play it with dignity. Do you know what tires a person the most? It is not the rejection itself, but the meaning you give to that rejection. When a woman ignores you, or distances herself, or chooses someone else, your mind does not see just a fleeting situation, but begins to build a complete story. A story that says, I am not enough. There is something missing in me. Why didn't she choose me? But let me ask you a simple question. Is everyone you don't like a bad person? Certainly not. So why is it that when she doesn't like you, you assume the problem is with you? The truth that no one talks about is that attraction is not logic, but a feeling. And you cannot force a feeling to appear, and this is where the real shift happens. Instead of trying to change her feeling, start by changing your position. Because when you stay in the same place, trying, chasing, explaining, you give her the role of the center and put yourself in the margin. And this balance makes her feel powerful and makes you feel inadequate. But what happens when this balance changes? When you stop running, when you withdraw your attention, when you return to yourself, something very strange happens. Not only then, but to you first. You feel calm. You stop the constant thinking. You stop waiting for a message. You stop analyzing every word she said, as if you stepped out of a circle that was consuming you without you realizing. And this calm is not weakness, but strength. Because a person who does not rely on someone else to feel valued cannot be easily broken. But let's dive deeper. Why does the other party start thinking when you distance yourself? It's related to what is called the attention gap. When you give someone continuous attention, this attention becomes natural, expected, unremarkable. But when it suddenly stops, the mind notices. It starts to ask, what changed? Did I lose their interest? Is there someone else? And these questions create internal tension, and this tension is what drives them to think of you. But here's the most important point. Not everyone who thinks of you will come back. And that's normal, because the real goal is not to get any woman back, but to remain steady no matter what happens. Because if you build yourself only on their reaction, you will crumble again if they don't do what you expect. And this is what many fall into. They start by ignoring, then wait for the result. And if it doesn't come, they go back to chasing. And thus they enter an endless loop. But the aware person understands that this is not a tactic, but a lifestyle. A lifestyle that says, I do not chase those who do not choose me. And this principle alone changes everything. Let me give you another example. Imagine you walk into a place and there's someone trying to get everyone's attention. They speak loudly, laugh a lot, trying to be the center of attention. And another person, calm, natural, not trying to prove anything, but confident. Which one grabs your attention more? Often, the second person, because it doesn't need to prove itself. And this is exactly what happens in relationships. When you try too hard, it shows that you are in need. And when you are natural, it shows that you are self-sufficient. And self-sufficiency is attractive. Not because it's a game, but because it reflects an internal balance. But let me be honest with you. This path is not easy, because you will feel the urge to go back. You will think about it. You will wonder. And here comes the real test. Will you return to the same circle, or will you stay firm? And this firmness does not come from acting, but from understanding. When you understand that your worth is not determined by someone's opinion, you become free. And when you become free, you become attractive without trying. But there is a very delicate point you need to pay attention to. Ignoring does not mean cruelty, and it doesn't mean pretending not to care while you are burning inside. True ignoring is being honest with yourself. If there is no longer balance, you withdraw, calmly, without noise, without drama, without last attempts. Just, you move on. And this moving on is the strongest message. A message that says, I do not accept to be a second choice. And this kind of message is not said in words, but felt. Do you know why this approach is so impactful? Because it is rare. Most people, when they are rejected, try harder, but only a few choose themselves. And those are the ones who are remembered. They are the ones others think of after they are gone, because they were not ordinary. They were not always available, and they were not willing to lose themselves for someone. And here, respect begins. And respect is the foundation of any true attraction. Without it, everything is temporary. But with it, even absence becomes meaningful. Let me ask you a question now. If this person came back to you, would you be the same old person? Would you fall back into the same mistakes, the same attachment, The same loss of balance? Or have you become a different person who understands themselves more and respects themselves? That is the difference, not in their return, but in who you have become. Because if you do not change, you will repeat the same story with the same ending. But if you have changed, even if they come back, the relationship will be different. And if they do not come back, you will not feel like you have lost, because you have gained yourself. And that is the greatest gain. And in this moment, I want you to pause a little and think about every situation where you felt you were giving more than you were taking. Every time you were waiting, every time you were trying, every time you felt you were not enough. Now ask yourself, did you really need it? Or did you need to feel important? Because there is a big difference. And when you understand this difference, you are liberated. Not from one person, but from a whole idea. The idea that you need someone to complete you. And the truth, you are already complete, but you just forgot that. And when you remember, you won't chase anyone. Instead, you will choose and be chosen. And here the game changes completely. Not because you have become stronger than others, but because you have become honest with yourself. And this honesty shows in every action, every word, every glance. And others feel it without you speaking. And in the end, let me tell you something very important. Not everyone who distances themselves from you is a loss, and sometimes rejection is protection. Protection from a relationship where you would lose yourself. So, don't look at ignoring as an insult, but as a signal that says, this is not your place. And when you understand the signal, you move on, without extra pain, without endless questions. Just move on, and build yourself, and live, and continue. Then one day, you will look back and smile. Not because they came back, but because you are no longer the same person. And now, I want to hear from you. Have you gone through a similar experience? Have you ever tried to chase someone and then regretted it? Write to me in the comments. Do you believe that ignoring is a strength or a weakness? And if you've reached this point, you are someone who wants to understand, not to drift. And this in itself is a strong step. Don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. We'll meet soon on a new journey and a deeper understanding of the self and relationships.